This issue of a third of Londoners has said they would be uncomfortable with a Muslim mayor. Now, when it comes to choosing who you want to vote for, is religion, be honest with me, because you know I love you to be honest, and I have to say virtually everyone that calls up or texts or emails in always is very honest with me, and I'm very grateful for that. Is it something that you think about? If you looked at a potential candidate in a local election, European elections, general election, and you saw that this candidate was of a different faith to you, would that be an issue? Or do you focus on the policies and that's all? Is there an age difference for those people who perhaps are scarred by partition or perhaps different things that have happened in the history of the region, whether it be Pakistani-inspired attacks in India, riots in Gujarat, the Sinhalese Tamil issues? Does that mean that it colours how you vote if you're an Asian? Or does it make no difference? That you look beyond religion and you think, well, what are the policies? And that's all I care about. Speak to Kavita, who got in contact with us this morning. Very good morning to you, Kavita.
Good morning.
How are you?
I'm fine, thanks.
Now, I'm interested to know, why is it that you would not vote for a Muslim?
Oh, basically, I wouldn't trust them if they got in power.
Why? What do you think they would do?
Become a mayor or something. Sorry?
Why? What do you think they would do?
Because I would think they would be influenced by other Muslims that are corrupt and stuff, and I think that they would listen more to them. I don't think they would generally do a lot for other Asian communities.
Right, so you think that a Muslim mayor or a Muslim MP would only really look after other Muslims?
Yeah.
Is that what you think? I mean, would you have any proof of that?
I haven't got no proof, but I would think.
Were you brought up then to think of Muslims as being essentially your enemies?
Not my enemies, but not to trust them. Especially to give them any power or anything like this, yeah. But they would only work for their own community. They're not the type that would work for everybody.
Stay with us, Kavita. Sangeeta Pandey, business entrepreneur, joins us now. Sangeeta, good morning.
Very good morning, Nihal.
Kavita has just articulated how she feels. We've already had a text in from another Sikh saying exactly the same thing, that they would never vote for a Muslim. The question I've asked is, of course, would Asians rather vote for a white or black candidate than another Asian of a different religion? How do you feel when you hear Kavita say what she's just said?
You know, I'm quite troubled by what I hear, purely because it just goes on to show that we still have huge trust issues. Not many of us may have experienced it firsthand. It's a lot of hearsay. I can kind of understand if somebody's parent or grandparent has in 1947 during partition years or otherwise experienced firsthand something, and then they have prejudices. But a lot of this is hearsay. I mean, if you look at the UK and London, to think that someone of a certain faith or religion is not going to support or work for the larger community is deeply troubling.
Especially Kavita. Would you admit, Kavita, that your opinions are based on prejudice?
Could be, but I mean, like you said, I'd vote for any other Asian person, even a black guy. But a Muslim, I just feel I couldn't trust them.
So even if it was the political party that you are interested in, you would not vote for that person. You would rather vote for another political party than a Muslim.
I wouldn't vote at all then.
Can I just come in, Nihal? I think people with deep prejudices or fears like this or insecurities like this should look outwards. I mean, let's look at the example of India's late president, Dr. APJ Kalam. Amazing man who never let religion stand in the way, and the only death sentence he signed off. What I'm trying to say here is there are many examples where people of your own faith have been prejudicial. I mean, why is it that there's discrimination amongst women? I mean, people of your own faith, of your own community will discriminate within their children. With their children or with their in-laws, they behave differently. So these prejudices and biases for another religion is really unfounded and very, very, very troubling, if I'm at the risk of being repetitive.
Kavita?
I don't think so, because when you hear the news and you get some schools that are like just Muslim schools, and then the head of that school, you heard that there was a lot of stuff going on in the schools and the head knew about it.
With the Trojan, are you talking about the Trojan horse, which was
any Muslim a power? Yeah,
just to be clear, to be clear, after 2 different reports, there was found no evidence for a Trojan horse. Just to be very clear, there was no such thing. It didn't happen. The whole idea of that they were Muslim extremists getting involved in primary schools in Birmingham, they did 2 reports and they didn't find any conclusive evidence that had happened, Kavita. So you've kind of bought into the negative side of the story, but haven't looked into actually the fact that it wasn't true.
And also, when you look at the mosques as well, the people that have got power in there. Look what happens there. You hear stories about...
Well, I guess in a mosque, you would think that people in a mosque would look out for the interests of Muslims, because it's in the same way that a Sikh committee would look after...
You live in England, you live in UK, you've got to be tolerant. You've got to be tolerant to people around you.
Well, have you ever walked into a mosque, Kavita?
No.
Right, I've been to many mosques. No, not at any point has anyone, and I'm not a Muslim, not has anyone come up to me and said, you've got to get out. No one has bullied me. No one has batted an eyelid, really.
I'm only hearing what the media is saying, so are you saying that everything that you hear is all wrong then? No, but then you do feel a bit inside that. Can you trust anyone in the Muslim could give them any kind of power in the UK?
But there are more. Okay, but there are more Muslim MPs than there are Hindu MPs, for instance. Yeah. That 13 Muslim MPs, 8 of them women. 8 of them women. So if you're talking about, the Muslim community, say, discriminates against women, etc., well, the facts do not bear that out. There are 8
What about
female...
that lady? What was her name?
There's not a single Sikh MP.
No, the Muslim lady that was... She comes on TV quite a lot. I can't remember her name.
Baroness Varsi.
She resigned for... And the way she was behaving was just,
But
she resigned on a point of principle about a humanitarian issue.
But nobody really agreed with her, what she was saying. They didn't really actually agree with what she was saying. A lot of people didn't agree with why,
Yeah. But Kavita, do you have children?
Yes.
You do? Yeah. So are you bringing them up to be untrusting of Muslims as well?
Not... Probably.
Nihal, can I just make one point, please?
Yes.
People need to also see that when somebody comes in a position of power, maybe they will be in a position also to influence those who think otherwise. They will say, look, the community trusted me. They've brought me here. You have a chance. Be a part of the big community. Think of yourself as, part of society. Nobody's out there to get you. So those on the margins, or those who don't think that they're being included, might have a change of heart. And that is what is important, isn't it? If you keep excluding people, then they start fighting for their rights and they behave in very irrational ways.
But Sangeeta, we can't ignore, can we, the high-profile case of Lutfa Rahman in Tower Hamlets, can we?
Yes.
And that, of course, bought into a lot of the stereotypes people had, not only about Muslims, but about Asians, full stop, as being corrupt. Now, for someone like Kavita, she'll look on the news. As she's pointed out, she saw the Trojan horse issue, which actually ended up being a bit of a non-issue. But Lutfa Rahman was found guilty of corrupt practices. He's a Muslim in charge of a predominantly Muslim area. So can you understand why non-Muslims like Kavita would perhaps take from that They would have issues.
Okay, on the back of that, then, what about the prejudices that have been against the Asian community? Because, you just said that it was not just Muslims, it was also against the Asians. Asians globally have suffered prejudices. Now, if all of us were to just live with those prejudices, or we were made to feel different and not wanted, things would not have been what they are now. People have changed. They've opened up their minds. Talk to people who've lived here, Asian community in the UK about, say, 30, 40 years ago. The kind of things they went through, they don't go through it now, and it's because there's been a change of mind, and there's been a change in, and that's purely because of education, of inclusion, of understanding, whatever you may call it. One has to accept that people may be different, but because they're different, not all people are bad.
Kavita, do you think your attitude will ever change? Oh, Kavita's gone. Sorry, my apologies. Shanawaz Hussain, an IT analyst, joins me now as a guest. Shanawaz, good morning.
Morning.
Do you think these attitudes will change? You just heard Kavita say that she would never trust a Muslim.
No, it wouldn't, because people like Kavita are people who have a very little knowledge of life and anything about history. If she had a bit of knowledge, or even, took the decency to actually study something rather than getting her typical daily news from the media like a lot of people do, she'll understand. The whole purpose of a lot of English people, a lot of the whites, probably without trying to sound a bit negative, was to divide and rule. That's what they did with India. The Muslims, Hindus were all together, we were one army, we were all together, and they divided and ruled. That's how they work. The whole purpose of media is to feed things to people like her, because they take things on, because they're not going to go out and do their own research. I've walked into a lot of temples, and a lot of people didn't even realise that I was a Muslim, and I've heard them talk about so many negative things about Muslims. I never spoke about it, but I would challenge anybody to walk into a mosque. You walk into a mosque, they never do. They never talk about any religion. As a matter of fact, they encourage us that we should mix and never say anything negative about anybody over another religion. That you'll never get, you very rarely get a white person turn around and say, I'm not going to support a Muslim person, but you'll always get an Indian to do that. Hindus and Sikhs, especially Sikhs, will always do that. They're against Muslims for reasons, and they've been this from a young age. And the problem is, a lot of them don't seem to understand. And what my biggest argument, especially with Sikhs, is if you have a one arm that's infected, are you going to chop it off? No, you're not. Your religion is being built up with Hindus and the Sikhs, so why would you follow one bit and ignore another?
But do you think, so you don't think Muslims would do exactly the same thing? So if, for instance, in a predominantly Muslim area, there was a non-Muslim candidate, then you don't think Muslims would go, well, we'll go with the Muslim? Or if there was a Hindu candidate and a Sikh candidate, they wouldn't go for the Muslim candidate over those two?
Well, to be honest, I can't speak for the whole community. Or
No, I guess. But, look, at the moment, it seems like one-way traffic with people saying that they wouldn't vote for a Muslim. But the question is also, do you think Muslims be exactly the same? That if they were presented with a candidate who was Muslim and a candidate who was non-Muslim, they wouldn't think of the policies, they'd vote for the Muslim?
In my area, for example, when the elections happened, we've had a Muslim candidate. A lot of people did vote for him, and others didn't. Because certain things that they wanted done in that area, he wouldn't offer that. So they didn't vote for him. They never judged him about his religion. They were Muslims. They never judged him, he's a Muslim, we're not going to vote him. They didn't vote him purely on the basis, on the principle that they needed someone in the area which he would not provide. Now, you've got Indians on the other hand, despite if somebody, a Muslim turns that we would do this, we'll do that, they say, no, we don't trust you because I've sent it on the media. Kavita is obviously actually mentioned about the horse trading. She doesn't know a single thing about it, but she said, okay, they've said this, and we'll believe them. If they turn around tomorrow and say, well, Obama's actually white, we'll try and believe them. Because people like this are deluded, they have no knowledge about anything, and they will take on anything the media says. We argue about Muslims of ISIS and this and that. Let's take a step back on that. If it wasn't with the Saddam, because Saddam ISIS is now risen, it was proven that they didn't have any weapons of mass destruction. The doctor who figured that out, they ended up killing him. But they didn't really question that, no, because he's white.
Okay, Shanawaz, I'm going to cut you off there, my friend, because we've got other people to speak to. And Rab is in Birmingham as well. Rab, good morning.
Hello there, good morning, Nihal.
Long time no speak, actually. I mean,
I've
do
just
you
come back
agree?
from Pakistan a couple of days ago.
Oh, okay, good. Glad to hear you're nice and
Well, I
safe
haven't
back
been
from
able to
back
speak
from back from Pakistan.
Thank you.
Do you agree with Harry that you can't trust any Asian politicians, or do you think he's
no,
bought into a
absolutely.
media?
No, absolutely not. I do believe there is quite a lot of what's the politicians out there that do lie and that are corrupt. But that doesn't matter whether you're Asian or whether you're white or whether you're black or whether you're whatever color you are. I think for him to make that statement, I think he's basically thinking about the MPs back home, which are all corrupt in my opinion. But I think here there is quite a lot that do think about trying to make this country a better place for us to live in, and to make it easier as possible for us to actually integrate and to have a better life here. Because we've seen a lot of the things that our parents had to, I think, put up with, and a lot of the people that have gone into politics have gone into politics for that reason, because they've seen the kind of things that we've had to, I think, fight for, and etc., etc. But that was, him saying that's fair enough. He must have his whatever his I think views are. But the question which was initially put, that would I vote for an MP because he's of a certain faith or not, is the answer is absolutely not, because in the past 4 years this question hasn't come to light or has never been asked whether we voted for certain MPs or for certain Lord Mayors or whatever. So why is it that now that it's a particular faith, that this question's come to light? This question shouldn't even be asked whether we should vote for him because he is a Muslim or he's not a Muslim. We've voted for mayors in the past that are atheists or Christian. We've never thought of it as faith-based.
Yeah, well, that's why, Rab, we didn't put the word Muslim in our question today. What we wanted to look at was a broader issue about whether Asians think about religion when it comes to voting.
No, I don't think they do. I think what's happened is that because of what's actually in the media at the moment, anything that, like I've said before when I've come on the radio, that anything that is done by what's called a Muslim always seems to be highlighted by the faith. It's never just the fact that he's Asian. It's always that he's, I think Muslim, for example, as when other, I think Asian people do certain things, their faith is never mentioned, and it's a real shame that this question. I mean, I know that it hasn't been put by the BBC Asian Network, but I can understand why you've asked the question. It shouldn't even be. It should, because the actual gentleman who is, for example, wanting to stand for this particular post, he must have obviously done certain things, good things or whatever, to actually get to that position. So it shouldn't be based on what his faith is. It should be based on what his actual merits are and what he could do for the community. He could do for the people. But Rab, the woman that you had on earlier on, she sounded completely actually anti-Muslim. The one who said that she would definitely not vote for him because that if he's a Muslim, because
but is it similar? Wait a minute.
His own community.
But is it similar with Muslims, that Muslims would rather vote for another Muslim?
No, it's not. It's not. It's not, Nihal, because the thing is, right, I'm also an actual Muslim, as you know, and I've never, and as far as I know, the people that I do know, when we've voted for MPs, we've never looked at what religion they are. Most of them have been white Christians, and it's never bothered us that he's a white Christian. We've always thought that, when we've looked at the person's history and looked at the fact that the person has done so much good for our area or so much good for the community or whatever, we've never looked at the fact that he must be an atheist or he must be a Jew. I mean, I've actually voted for a Jew in the past, so it makes no difference.
Okay. All right. I'm going to have to leave it there, Rab.
It becomes like a Muslim that people may have this opinion.
Okay, I've run out of time, but Rab, good to speak to you. Glad you're safe back from Pakistan. Right, the anti-Muslim agenda in the media is working, says Suk here, causing tension and trust issues between different cultures. Media are to blame for this. Anil has said Muslims vote for Muslims. Look at Bradford, for example. If there is a contest between a non-Muslim and a Muslim candidate in any constituency in Bradford, Muslim candidate will win because Muslims are more likely to vote for one of their own. 2 words, George Galloway. He was in, wasn't he? Did he convert to Islam? I'm not aware he became a Muslim. I know said all the right things, but I'm not sure he actually converted. How can they even complain that there is any prejudice against them is beyond me. There are a lot of Muslim parliamentarians now. Councils around the country in places like Birmingham, Bradford are full of Muslim councillors. This is because Muslims vote for Muslim candidates. White people are noticing all of this and are worried, very worried. Before crying discrimination, racism, they should really take a good look at their own backyard. I would never vote for a Muslim because Muslims vote along religious lines themselves, but expect tolerance.